This is a podcast presented by
Hard to Find Media.
Subscribe to Hard to Find Media on youtube.com/Hard to Find Media Network. This shit is free. Share it. Blast it.
It's Tady's Day
Boy, we were excited. You can sense it.
I heard he had a whole block of brie last night. That's really nice. Coming back to get him.
What it would be like to be not on a Ferris wheel, but a great wheel.
So we are now rotating.
So how do you feel about buskers?
I'm pretty into buskers.
You are.
I am.
Here's the deal with salads.
We'll get to the baking of a cake. It's a little boring.
Kind of.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Tady's Day Out. I'm your host, Joe Tady. This is the show that delivers a comedic and irreverent review of all the best attractions Seattle has to offer. God damn it, that word attractions. Attractions Seattle has to offer. Seattle has a lot to offer in the way of attractions. I'm attracted to it. I'm attracted to Seattle. Look, I think you knew that. I have a podcast all about it, so if this came as a surprise, I don't know what you were thinking. So this week, very fun episode. My friend Ray, we used to work together. Now we don't work together. So this was a great excuse to see him. We went to a Mariners game. They played the White Sox. I grew up loving the White Sox. I have Frank Thomas's autograph, Ray Durham's autograph. That was about, 95 is about the last time I was into baseball. Don't watch it often, barely go to a game, which you can tell by the way I talk about it on the podcast. However, Ray used to be a professional baseball writer, more or less. We get into that in the episode. So he was the perfect guy to take. We had quite a nice evening, despite the fact that we got our butts kicked. Spoilers, we lost 11-1. I think maybe even more. Just a reminder, where I'm doing episodes every 2 weeks now. If you're like, man, where you been? Oh, I've been here, baby. I've been here. I've been banking episodes. I already have the next episode inside a podcast bank that I started. And remember to tell your friends, your family, everyone about the show. Let them know I'm out here. I'm doing the Lord's work for Seattle. Doing the Lord's work. James Lords. He is the head of tourism for Seattle. Oh, God. So please rate and review on iTunes. Subscribe, all that jazz. And I will see you in 2 weeks with another very special episode.
Hey, Richie, there's a couple guys here to see you. Hey, what can I do for you guys?
Your name's Zisk?
Yeah, that's right. Who are you guys?
We're from Chicago.
Yeah, I noticed your White Sox. What do you want?
We understand you're pretty good with a bat.
Yeah, I do okay.
How about maybe tonight you strike out a few times? You know, maybe pop up. What do you say?
Oh, I'm sorry, gentlemen. I couldn't possibly do that. I'm a Mariner.
All right. I am here with Ray Schwabacher, Grand Schwabacher. Ray, how do you say your last name?
It's a grand salami of a Schwabacher day.
It's
Schwabacher.
It's
the
Charles
way it's spelled.
Schwabacher, as in Charles Schwab.
Les Schwab.
Les-
There you go.
I always want to call it Schambacher, even though you're one of the most honest people I know.
Shambazler.
That's not a sham.
Just bamboozling over here.
Ray, we went to a Mariners game tonight. That was our...
It's still going on.
That was our day. It is still going on. We left early because of how horrible the Mariners were doing. It was bad.
Bleak.
Yeah, as of right now...
Pick an adjective about this.
They're playing the White Sox. They played the White Sox, depending on when you're listening. Are you listening to this live? How? How are you doing that?
Where are you?
Yeah.
Give a knock, why don't you? We'd love to have you in this room.
Yeah. We're
friendly. We don't bite.
Don't hack my computer. Don't give me that ransomware bullshit. The White Sox are currently beating the Mariners 15-1, including they had 4 runs in the first inning.
Before the first out, before we knew where our seats were.
Yeah, that's true. The first half of the first inning, were they in? How do innings work?
Yeah, there's the home team bats second in case they want to be heroes late.
Let's back up. Let's back up here.
Is that a little too much about the way baseball works before explaining to the listening audience?
I want the listeners to know why I wanted to do this with you. I grew up playing baseball, and I like baseball. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, which is where they hold the College World Series. So I spent a lot of time as a child going to that, always over the 4th of July, and they would have a big fireworks thing. And one year, they did it wrong. They set it up wrong, and all the debris started raining on all the people in the field because they let you go down on the field to watch it. And all this smoke started rolling in, and they had to evacuate everyone. And I was 5, and it terrified me because these pieces of flaming cardboard kept falling and hitting me in the head.
And when all the spectators are just huddled near each other in a cornfield, that's extra dangerous.
It's just because it's Nebraska doesn't mean it's in a cornfield.
So every day you go out into your backyard and you find that there's just like this diamond in the rough, if you will, in the cornfield that's just appeared, and then you just start swinging the stick around.
See, they built it. People came. Ray Liotta came.
I know a shitload about Nebraska, Joe.
Wasn't wearing a lot of shoes. I feel like I have always underestimated you. I've even underestimated what you used to do before we worked together, which is why I wanted you on this episode, and that is you did sports writing specifically about baseball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And who did you do that for? Like, how did that come about?
Well, it started out in high school when you read a baseball blog and you really like it and you think, this person who's writing this is so good. I could do exactly what they do, but better. Mm-hmm. And you're so wrong and you do it anyways. And so my friends and I were in the habit of going to games, and we would hang out in the bullpen, sit around there, yell at the relief pitchers, and we considered ourselves just total asshole 17-year-olds, which is right. We were. And so we started
give the pitchers any relief?
No relief for the relievers.
Hey.
No bellies were itched on these premises.
Oh, God.
And so we called ourselves Bullpen Bullies. We registered a WordPress domain.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. This was our first site. It was Bullpen Bullies. It was myself and a couple friends. And it towed the line between analytically minded baseball writing, or we would just pick a pitcher on a team that we really didn't like, fixate on him, and write fan fiction about him just like leaving his family and just being a horrible person.
Is that true?
This is absolutely true.
Is that WordPress still up there?
I can't confirm nor deny. I hope
listeners, if you can find that WordPress, please email me at tatiesdayout@gmail.com and I will post it on the Facebook.
That's Bullpen Bullies. And it was Randy Choate, Puddin' Poppin' Daddy was our public enemy number 1.
Why? Who's that?
He was a semi-anonymous relief pitcher in the late aughts.
I like that if you're semi-anonymous, you're also semi-well-known.
Well, it's
a glass-half-full situation.
It's this weird balance because you play the most obscure revolving door position on a not that visible team, but you're a professional athlete. You're likely a millionaire or something close to it. You make 6 to 8 figures a year.
Yeah.
And most of the people in the world don't know your name. You're one of the wealthiest people possible.
Yeah.
And you're just invisible to everyone except for this devout group of followers of this baseball team.
You can say that about a ton of people, though.
But because of the position, you're like a bullpen guy. These guys, they change every year just about. It's a new best reliever in town or whatever. And it's just, there's a huge amount of turnover. But we knew the name Randy Choate because we read it on his jersey, Wikipedia his first name, and just started yelling about pudding at this guy. And for some reason, we had tickets to this group of friends of mine. We're 17, and we're going to all these games, seeing this guy in the bullpen. He's getting into a lot of games, so he's warming up. And every time that he gets down there we are, right place, right time, just screaming our asses off about pudding pops.
How many games would you go to every summer? And this is while you're in high school still.
Yeah, so even back in those days, I'd try to make it out a dozen odd times, and generally up to 20.
A dozen odd times? Is that a baker's dozen? Is that 13?
That is an odd number.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. God, it is an odd number.
It's really weird.
So you were writing on there and someone discovered you? Or did you start writing freelance? Did you pitch? Did you pitch stories to other publications? I didn't mean to make that pun, but it made me laugh. Oh, God.
Get that laugh in there, yeah. I got an email one day from a fellow named Paul Novak, asking if, just basically saying, hey, I read all these posts on your site. You're great. Do you want to write for me? You do, because I have thousands of Facebook followers. That's what you want. And he was right. That's what I wanted. So I stopped doing my little site and went to this thing where all of a sudden, I don't know how this guy curated this huge audience. He lived in Texas, I think, at the time. Was just like, devout Christian father, military man, for some reason just loved Seattle sports teams, and had this huge audience. Like thousands and thousands of people just got on this guy's personal website where he made it look really professional. To his credit, he did a ton of work, and he really just found me out of nowhere, sent me an email, and got me started.
That's awesome. So you did that through college then?
All through high school and college, just about, I was doing this. And
you got paid for it?
At one point, when I was close to graduating college, I noticed, it was the funniest thing. It's like you hear these days about people finding out that they got fired because they see it on Twitter, or turn on the TV and there's, Trump fires Comey or whatever it is for that day. This is just how things happen. I get on Twitter and I see him basically just courting this company, just saying, "Are you guys going to pick up my blog or not? Are you guys going to give me this job?" And I'm like, "You're my boss. Like, you're my managing editor. Like, what the fuck is going on?" And it turned out that what was happening was way cooler than I realized. Like, I was just like, "Oh shit, the only guy who I've ever worked with in this field and respected is leaving. I need to do something about it."
Yeah.
And so I messaged him and I was just like, "Hey, it looks like you're up to something. Let me in on it, whatever it is." And what was happening was he was taking over this website that was part of a series of sports blogs. It was like a network. This was a trend for a few years. You start this website, and then you start 300 websites within your website, and then you try to get people to care, which is obviously the hard part and why most of these things don't exist anymore. This one lucked out and got bought by Time Warner right after they picked up our site. Yeah. So we moved our operation over to this major platform, and within a couple months, Paul was out, and he was like, "You know what? I need to focus on my real life. This is insane. I'm in my 40s and I write about sports on the internet." Yeah. And I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s and did it. And I'm a college writing student at the time. I'm thinking, all I want is to somehow turn this charade into a career. Right. And so I jumped at it a bit, applied for the position, and signed a contract and started getting pennies for my work. Nice. That's awesome, man. It's cool. It's really cool. And I given that I don't know anymore, like I'm just not involved in baseball anymore. I wanted to bring a real heavy hitter to the podcast. I wanted to have a day out with a real grand slam of a guy. Ball four. So we went to a Saturday night Safeco Field game, Mariners versus the White Sox. Started at 7:10. We had pretty good seats in the 330 section. Gotta love the 330s. Row 10, seats 1 and 2, if anybody wants to know exactly where we were. They were the cheaper seats that I could find. I really liked them. I thought they were great. It was like behind home plate, but up, not like behind home plate, but up a little bit. Technically speaking. Is it? You don't mention elevation there, so it's a claim that really I try to never mention elevation whenever I it's just one of those things I just fucking hate talking about, so I just don't do it.
So it takes 3 strikes, you said?
In most instances.
Yeah.
Often 3. Rarely more.
You said at this old ball game?
At Ye Olden.
Okay.
Ye Olden.
Yeah. So what's your history? Did you ever go to the Kingdom? Because you grew up in Kirkland.
Growing up at the brief period of the Mariners being good and fun, the Ken Griffey years, if you will.
Oh, I will.
And you will. Yeah. And how? And so they would do this thing. Yeah, I was a Kingdom kid for sure. Started going there all the time when I was sub 1 years old. And the reason why I would never last is because that was the home run years for the Mariners. Mm-hmm. And the Kingdom did this great thing because they're an indoor stadium with a full array of fireworks that they'd light off every time there was a home run. Fireworks in the stadium, in the dome. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm a baby, and I don't like loud noises to this day. Ask anybody. I hate loud noises. This isn't true. I'm fine with loud noises. Ah! What was that? And every time they'd hit their first home run of the night, we would leave. We would drive back to Kirkland as soon as the Mariners hit a home run. Absolutely.
Because you would get scared.
They were an outstanding offensive team built around the long ball. Every night, you're guaranteed a home run pretty quickly. Yeah. And I don't know why I was too young to know what was going on. I don't know if it was they were extremely short-sighted and have worse memories than I would like to acknowledge.
Speaking of that era of the Mariners, tonight was Jay Buhner bobblehead night.
Jay Buhner bobblehead night.
He's still being celebrated. Like, was Griffey on the team the same time as Buhner and A-Rod?
Everybody
and Edgar Martinez?
These guys were all shared a field, and that's what made it special and relevant, and that's why it's 2017 and they're the promotional items.
Yeah, now that Ichiro's left.
Yeah. Well, people never liked him because people here like white people.
Yeah.
Use that if you're comfortable with it. It's Seattle. My mother made sure to mention in my bar mitzvah speech, in her bar mitzvah speech for me, it's on video. You can't watch it. No one can. I've hidden all the copies.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm finding it.
You are not.
I'm calling Mrs. Ray.
She doesn't know
that sounds like she's your wife.
Yeah, it sounds like my wife.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've ever dated your mother? Like someone who's just like her?
Oh boy.
Is
this where this episode's going at? Do you want? Let me tell you about how I'm my mom, Joe.
Now that I've got you in a baseball corner.
So I see you've locked me in a little room and you're asking me questions about my
it's
mom.
a very small room.
It's very small.
I moved here right like a year or two before they imploded the Kingdom, and I remember watching it on TV on Cairo or whatever live, and just being in awe of it. And then we would go to the Pike Place Market, and there were all these like pieces of stone out there, and they're like, buy a real piece of the Kingdom, and I like begged my mom to buy me this $20 piece of cement, and she's like, that's not the Kingdom.
Or you could walk a quarter of the mile down the street and just pick one up off the ground because the rubble is still there.
And it could have been anything, and even if it was the rubble of the Kingdom, it doesn't look like anything worthwhile.
Just a slab of concrete.
Exactly. I'm glad my mom stood up to me.
Don't always let your kid win. Your kid isn't always right, and they don't need to always think they're right.
That's true, and that's the real message I want to get out today.
That's what this podcast is all about. Yeah. Don't buy your kid a slab of broken concrete for $20. This is dumb. Your kid won't learn anything other than mom does whatever I say because I'm small and...
I will say I had a pet rock as a kid. I will say that. Is it true?
Did you paint it?
No. It kind of looked like it had a face, though. I liked that.
See, mine was green. Named it Green Day. After the color green.
Oh, God, you must have been in paradise. Well, welcome. So then they built Safeco Field, which was one of the first times that I learned... Like, when I learned that Safeco, I was like, why'd they name it Safeco? And when I learned that that's a local insurance company, and I learned that you can name, like, sponsor things like that, when I learned that at 14, it really pissed me off. Like, that was one of the first times I felt disillusioned with society. Just, you went from the Kingdom to Safeco Field, this local insurance company. And then I learned that they did that all over the country, and I hate, like, the Staples Center. I was like, oh, that's from the company.
It's not just that we're really into... The place is held together by Staples or something like that.
Yeah,
there's no
which
relevance.
Is what I thought. There's the Glue Factory Center.
That's why they call the Glue Factory the Glue Factory. It's where the glue comes from.
And actually, that's one of the hard things I have a hard time with about sports. It's not the sport itself. It's like... It's the culture surrounding it.
And the fact that everything is, at the end of the day, take me out to the ball game, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. This is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Billion. Right. I don't know. I said trillion. Can I say that again? It's fine if we pretend it's trillions. It feels like trillions. The lowest they're allowed to pay a player in the major leagues is $510,000 a year.
Jesus,
that's the minimum. It's an enforced rule.
That's their minimum wage. And then when we ask for $15, everyone's like, "Seattle's crazy."
Get a load of these.
No one saw me spin my bow tie, but I did.
I can't believe you wore a bow tie just for that one.
And then I sprayed you in the face with seltzer water.
It still hurts.
And then I said, "We gotta get out of here." Do you feel like you're true to the blue?
I absolutely.
Or do you prefer SODO MOJO? Let's talk about slogans.
Let's talk slogans. So, true to the blue, I feel like is in no small part a reference to the fact that the team has been bad for 15 years.
And so it's like they need to, now that there's no SODO MOJO.
Yeah, there is no mojo. You go, they're losing 4-0 before like the 10th pitch is thrown, and everyone just throws up their hands and says, well, I'm not leaving.
I mean,
like, you're here for this. Like, you're here to watch.
Start to leave at like the 4th inning by the droves. It like it started clearing out.
More hits than yesterday, that's good.
Collective groan.
They were one hit yesterday, and the only hit was a triple, and I just learned today that the guy who hit the triple fucked his thumb up when he was sliding into third base, and he's going to be out.
Oh, God.
Your only hit of the day?
Fans are dropping like flies.
Last night's game was fun because they went to extra innings.
It was such a nice night, though. It was really fun to just sit there and watch our team lose and hang out with you in the open air and have watch a really beautiful sunset. But
so you have this True to the Blue, and they used to cycle through a slogan every year. Every year, it's like you wait for the commercials to come out in the spring. They have this great marketing department. They put all this effort into these silly commercials that you remember for years and years afterwards. Mm-hmm. You come up with this slogan, something about like this year. Let me tell you, this year is gonna be really something. And one of those years, it just was True to the Blue. Everyone's like, "Yep, you're right. I'm bummed. They wear blue. I show up every night.
I'm going to stay committed.
I don't have any fun.
Yeah.
And I keep doing this over and over and over again." And then they were like, you know what? This is it. And they stuck with that slogan, and it's been years of it.
It makes sense because they don't have anything else to build on. So why not just try to keep old fans committed by staying true to the blue? Not having cable TV and not listening to most radio, I only listen to 90.3 where all the commercials are just about 90.3 KXP, which I think is funny. And not to say I don't watch a lot of TV, it's all Netflix or Amazon Prime. So I don't ever see any commercials for things like that anymore. And I'm trying to think, do they have baseball team commercials? But I do remember ones from as a kid where the Mariner Moose, which is their mascot, kept showing up to people's houses and delivering stuff. And I was always like really freaked out that the moose was going to show up to my house because I was scared of everything, even as a 12-year-old.
Sure.
Yeah.
He didn't, though, did he?
He did. He did.
I was going to say, because that summer, everyone in Seattle got that knock. It's the worst summer since the summer of 69.
It's the summer of 69. He's not talking about the year.
Although 69 is the year that professional baseball did come to Seattle for the first time.
That's true. Let's talk about that. So they were known as the Seattle Pilots, and they spent 1 year here before they were sold to Milwaukee and became the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers.
The Milwaukee Burbers, yeah.
The bourbons.
Which is how people in Milwaukee say beer when they want it twice. They say, I'd like a beer.
Berber.
A Berber.
They became the Milwaukee Bourbon Dynasty.
The Bourbon Bastards.
Constitutional monarchy. I've been listening to the podcast Revolutions about the French Revolution, and it's all I think about. So they went to Milwaukee. And Seattle was pissed. And they actually built the kingdom even before we had a team again. Because they were so sure. Because Major League Baseball was like, we'll get you something. And then they had, what's it called? A franchise? Or like when... Expansion team where they just decide they want to create more teams. Is that it?
Well, yeah, where you say, we have all this money and somehow we can spare some of it to let some more people into our club. Mm-hmm. Long-term growth, of course, you eye that.
Has there always been an American League and a North League?
National League?
National League.
I think it's the National League in like the 1870s, the American League in the early 1900s. They're rivals for a very short time. Start doing this whole World Series song and dance. And then it only became incorporated as one giant company in like the 90s.
No
the
way.
1990s. They were separate legal entities.
Oh, okay.
Although they always, they played the All-Star game, the World Series to determine the champion, blah, 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 for 100 years.
Why is it called the World Series? Real question. Because aren't we
As a means of delegitimizing the Chinese.
It's always about the goddamn Chinese.
No, I'm just kidding. It's the Japanese.
Yeah, I was going to say the Japanese
and the Koreans. I was going to say the Chinese play basketball.
Oh, God.
They don't have a baseball league. They don't.
Is that true? How much do you know about China?
Very little.
Me too.
Quite nothing.
If you want to know more about China, please listen to the Pacific Science Center episode where I went and saw a bunch of terracotta warriors with my sister. Plug for my own show, just like 90.3 KEXP, The Rock.
Where the rock matters.
Do you smell the rock is KXPing?
There was the wave's going around. The wave is going around. It's coming back. Nope, it's happening just randomly throughout the stadium.
I don't think I've ever seen the stadium care less about the wave. This is a good sign. This is good.
I don't think I've ever been a part of a real substantial committed wave. Except for when I'm waving bye to my dad when he left for the last time. I never saw him again. Just kidding. My dad's just my dad.
As a writer, what was your most read and lauded article?
So the first time I went camping after accepting a lead editor job, I quit immediately. The first time I went on a camping trip and didn't have to.
Because you're not a lead editor. You're more of a rhythm editor.
Much more of the rhythm, yeah. And so you get out in the woods without anything around you. You say, I have to quit my job looking at a computer screen immediately, which I did. Mm-hmm. And then after a couple months, I was like, you know what? I still have some things to say about baseball. So for a couple months there, I had my little indie solo project, pitching to the score.
I feel like we worked together when that was happening.
Most of this took place while I was working a real job so I could actually pay the bills, because you think that you make money writing about sports on the internet, but you don't.
Yeah.
You get nothing. It's pay per click. All these websites, they pay you for the people you can click. If you don't like sensationalist headlines, you aren't going to get any money. If you like sensationalist headlines, you suck and you're still not going to get very much money. You have bad taste.
There's
and
also
you're trying
just
too
so
hard.
much stuff out there. There's so much content.
You're not invisible to yourself or to your parents, but other than that, you have to kick and scream. And if you don't like kicking and screaming for attention, there's just not really a way to do this viably.
Yeah, I fully understand, just from a podcast perspective.
People who are self-promotional shit sacks who just don't care about being anything but loud are the ones who will thrive doing this, which is unfortunate. But it also makes sense. It should be that way.
I'm both loud
way,
and self-conscious.
Yeah.
So it's like depends on the day.
Precarious position you put yourself in there by being born this way.
Some days I'm that person, and some days I'm the other one.
After I started the site all on my own, I just decided I'm not going to have anyone else do this with me. I'm just going to have this be my little thing. I'm just going to channel myself. I'll write whenever I feel like it. Turns out I wrote a couple dozen posts in a month and a half and never did it again.
Yeah.
But there was this one that was just kind of an oft-requested subject that I never wanted to write about when I had like a company looking over my shoulder. But it's just kind of like the step-by-step. How do you combat the high alcohol prices at Safeco Field? The answer is obvious. You just bring it in your pocket, and then you get a free soda. You fill your pockets with booze.
Are you tired of paying high prices? Bring it in your pocket.
Yeah.
Now tell the people how, Ray.
Well, you don't want a metal flask. They have metal detectors.
Yeah.
9/11.
They don't check your pockets, right?
If you give them a good reason, like if you're staring at them and you're mouthing just like, don't ask me what's in my pockets.
And
it's
you
alcohol.
kept saying that, but that's just because you hadn't been touched in 2 years.
Yeah, you got it. Really, the first time sets it off.
Right.
You're never the same after that.
You purposely bring in metal, and then you just say, now you have to frisk me.
You gotta.
Yeah, you have a really breathy voice. You're like the John Mayer of my friend group.
All I hear is the nose.
You got a sweet nose, baby.
Yeah.
So as like a tourist attraction, as a day out thing with your family, like how do you... I find it really fun. If you love baseball, obviously it's really fun. It's just so fucking expensive. It's like, I know it's the cheapest of the sports things, but for me, the whole situation, even what are the cheap seats run normally? Like 16?
$16.
Yeah.
Times 4. It's already out of hand.
Yeah. If you're trying to take your family and stuff, but it's also like a nice splurge.
I mean, you're not spending a lot on alcohol because you brought your plastic flask, and you got your drunk driver lie of the year.
I would rather learn how to get snacks in.
You can bring all outside food in for free.
Are you serious?
That's like the whole point.
Like in a bag?
Yeah, and no one does. No one does it.
What?
You could sit at home and just microwave a whole bag of hot dogs, fill your jacket pockets with them, and that's okay. They'll let you in. They'll say you smell like microwave old hot dog.
Wait, can they see you having the food on you?
Absolutely. You can just walk right in there with a fistful of microwaved hot dogs, and they'll just say that was tactful and disgusting, but tactful. And that's permissible, but it's the
that's
beverages.
Most of my life.
It's the beverages that really
that's where they make their money.
And I don't think this is I don't think this is not obvious, this whole thing. And so when it was just like, when I wrote this thing, and it was basically just because people wanted to hear it said not out loud. You don't write out loud. I hate when people say that, and I just fucking said it.
Shout it.
When people
shout it out loud. Was I off key?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a song in the key of life. You're nailing it.
Gross.
Yeah. But enough about word vomit. So this thing I wrote it, and I just didn't think that this was anything that anyone couldn't figure out just by thinking about it for 5 seconds. It's just, you bring the booze in on your own, and you sneak it in instead of saying, I have some booze, and then you get to have booze there. It's like they say you can't, but if you do, then you did, and then you can because you did. And then the big revelatory information is there's a booth that gives out free pop.
Whoa,
and
what?
Soda.
Oh, thank you.
Some Midwest relatives.
I said pop when I moved here from Nebraska, and
Did they beat it out of you?
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Just like the song Aneurysm.
You don't hear it in your head. You're Nebraska versus Minnesota there. I hear it in my head as Pat, and I'm just like, that sounds fun to say. I got to say it like that.
Pop.
Soda Pat.
Talk about soda music. All right, I vote yes on Safeco, even with the money things. I'm kind of a cheap bastard. But I had a really good time. It was a great day out, and it's kind of quintessential Seattle.
Hey, I'll drink to that.
Hey, cheers. All right.
If there were.
Well, listeners, this is me with Ray Slam it on her. Ew.
All right, let's back to square one. We're gonna delete all we got and just start over.
All right, listeners, thanks for tuning in and listening to us talk about baseball. Email me or comment on my page with your favorite baseball movie, and if it's not The Natural starring Robert Redford, I don't want to fucking hear it. All right, you go out there, you make it a great day.
And play ball.
This has been a podcast presented by
Hard to Find Media.
Subscribe to Hard to Find Media on youtube.com/Hard to Find Media Network. This shit is free. Share it. Blast it. Fuck it.